Arcs in One Piece have always been pretty hit or miss, apart from the animation, which has honestly always been kind of, oh my god, Nami ate the gum gum fruit. I mean, they're all pretty unique in their world design, which is undoubtedly the core engagement that's always present in the series. But if you're not particularly into that, it can be kind of a grind to get to the high moments depending on whether or not they even exist in that particular arc. You can get anything from the fast-paced, high-impact Marineford to the Foxy arc, which is literally the embodiment of sludge. Like, no, seriously, it's anything but solid, a total mess, and slow as fuck. I can't be too hard on the Foxy arc. It at least had one amazing plot twist. That it was fucking canon! Yeah, ironically, the one arc that every anime-only viewer thought was filler was canon, but even better, it came right after the arc that everyone thought was canon, when in actual fact, it was filler. Which I think brings up an interesting question about the meaning of canon. I mean, you can keep your exact technical definition of what it is, that's fine, you know, but when you're analyzing in terms of how good something is, whether or not it was made by the creator is irrelevant. Filler's associated definition is something a lot closer to whether or not the show is doing anything with something that the audience is invested in. That's what people mean when they say something felt like filler, despite having no idea whether or not it was in the manga. But how does one make good filler, and why is so much of it terrible? The main issue starts with the fact that you're gated off from changing or editing anything from the canon, which I mean, it changes the core of character development and plot, so you can create a bunch of new characters, but doing stuff with them is now nowhere near as effective without investment. Plus, you still have to keep the main characters around, because, I mean, nah, fuck that. Let's just insert an irrelevant full-length movie into the middle of the anime. Ultimately, doing this right comes down to good writing that stands on its own, and desperately trying to brute force investment all the new characters so that you can actually give them screen time without them being inherently uninteresting. It also helps if you can tease and foreshadow new characters before you actually meet them. A great example of this is Brook, who you see everywhere before his arc even starts. But hard investment is the main way, which, as you probably figured out from the title, is what the GA arc One Piece absolutely nails. For the people who haven't watched it, don't worry, I'll summarize. I'm not going to force you to watch this arc. I'm just going to take this GIF from it and play it on screen for a few seconds. And never give you context. So first off, the crew are descending from the sky on their hot air octopus, because the last arc took place on a sky island. Now in the manga, they just land on the sea like normal, but the creator of this filler arc decided to use the hot air balloon as logic to make them land dead smack in the middle of a marine base that's surrounded by a huge wall of cliffs and one closed giant door. And this is something you'll see quite frequently from this writer. They use everything they possibly can as tools for this arc's writing. A lesser writer would have had them land on the sea and maybe stopped them on a new island with a new adventure, but this motherfucker looked at everything he had to work with, saw that they were falling from the sky, and asked themselves, what can I do with this scenario that wouldn't be possible without it? As the arc continues, this writer will not only utilize the gold they got from the previous arc, but all of the new tools. Hell, they even make use of Usopp, which is more than I can say for the canon. The writing in this arc is genuinely just really clever. Upon landing, the crew flee the ship, steal uniforms, and hide within the base. The crew gets mostly split up, and a lot of good humor comes from the pairings they choose, but one of the best pairings is Sanji and Luffy. The two characters associated with food end up going to the kitchen and get mistaken for the cooks who are supposed to be coming from the Marine headquarters to teach the Marines better cooking. They've however taken offense to that and challenged them to a cook-off. They bring their A-game and use all of their best ingredients and everything while Sanji just waits. After they finish, he takes all of the wasted leftovers and makes an even better meal, with his point being that you fucking Marines don't waste food. And it becomes a really positive moment for his character that plays into his backstory and opinions, as well as just a really good oh snap moment that accentuates how good a cook he is in a simple, understandable way that you still wouldn't have seen coming. Apparently their cooking is still good though, even though this meatball is clearly cement. This arc is also really intelligent in a way that One Piece generally isn't. Getting back their ship, gold, and getting out of the base plays like this intricate strategy game as the Marines try to uncover and capture them. There's a lot of ambushes and reading of what the other party is thinking. I mean, the Straw Hats don't do much of that. They get away with a lot of things because they're unexpectedly strong and also have access to a bunch of foreign inventions. But no, in fact, most of the clever strategy comes from the main antagonist of this arc, Commander Jonathan. By the way, best filler character ever. You know what I was saying about brute force investing your characters in a small amount of time? This is what you have to do. Like, you don't even see the Straw Hats for the first half of the first episode. Whoever the fuck this writer is gets it. They know how important this is. Jonathan is the quote-unquote peace-loving commander of Navarone. He's laid back, fun-loving, and chill, but also a brilliantly wise and methodical strategist. He's built a reputation by being non-confrontational, but when the Straw Hats drop from the sky, he takes steps to read his opponents and begin his stranglehold. He starts by taking the ship and investigating, using clues to deduce how many people he's dealing with, and he begins preparing to flush out the crew that he knows has no choice but to grab uniforms and blend in. He has a unique methodical style and personality, and his voice actor is hilarious. But he really cements himself as a force to be reckoned with. By the second episode, he's already captured one of the Straw Hats, and he patiently bides his time before his next move, laying traps and predicting movements. A lot of fillers have this problem of not wanting to take away from the main character's power by giving it to the new ones, but if you want to get your audience to care, your new characters have to be competent. G8 gets around this by making them incomparables. The Straw Hats have never been known to be that smart, they're just kind of really ballsy and unpredictable, so they make for this really entertaining fight where they don't demean either combatant. As a result, Jonathan doesn't feel like this useless minor character taking up screen time. But that's not all. Just in his own right, he's really likable. He's genuinely like a good guy. He cares for his men, likes peace. He has a wife too, and a good relationship and dynamic with her. But how many wife-husband relationships do you see out of antagonists that aren't deceitful in any way? This is also pretty unique by One Piece standards. You might notice there's a severe lack of not evil antagonists. A lot of them make for good satisfying punching bags, but so few feel like human beings. He's just good, and by the end of the arc you're really invested in him, so you start to care about this subplot with this uptight inspector who's saltier than the sea he came on. Not only did this guy make for an absolutely hilarious scene where Robin pretends to be him and he gets thrown in prison as one of the pirates, where Usopp proceeds to reinforce that he's one of them when he's not. But after he finally gets out, he starts looking for a reason to get the super defensive and peaceful marine base shut down for chucking him in prison. Now it's this guy who becomes the real villain of the arc. And it does something really clever towards the end to keep Jonathan's power as a character intact. This bitter motherfucker ends up being the one thing that stops Jonathan from actually capturing the Straw Hats, because just as the Marine base is lining up a clean shot, he forces an innocent bazooka to commit cannibalism. Hell, Jonathan is basically baiting him through the whole arc to go rebellious so that when he inevitably fails, he won't have an excuse to get the place shut down. And again, the best part is you care about this exchange, because this filler arc successfully invested a character. At the end of the day, the only reason we look at the term filler as anything other than the dictionary definition is because it's generally just so bad that we've come to think of the term as an inherently bad thing. But if we just get the hang of characterization, filler would become a purely technical term that just refers to what is and isn't in the manga. And if I ever get canon like this again, I'll find a way to shoot myself with it!